Well, I'm going to put this out for education purposes, but it's true as and serious as a heart attack. As a matter of fact, a lot of times people come around with the argument about the Second Amendment, well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Right? Now, look at the Gun Control Act of 1968. It's illegal. Reason I'm stating that, maybe you can say that it has some implied constitutionality because they do not, there's different constitutional scholars that talk about, the powers that are enumerated in the Constitution are strictly what the federal government is allowed to regulate, but there may be some implied powers, but they got the EPA in there using their powers to regulate wood burning stoves, for crying out loud. But it's very clear what the Second Amendment says, and it doesn't matter what anybody in black robes say. It's a matter of you have the right to bear arms, period, because it was well outlined by the Founding Fathers who the militia is. But if you go past that, hey, it's a natural right. Now, let me get on to some other things because I want to tell you that there's one issue whereby they ignore another amendment to the Constitution, which would totally stop or make the Gun Control Act of 1968 null and void, which is the 10th Amendment, because it's not expressly stated in the Constitution that the government has the right to regulate arms. As a matter of fact, it's expressly stated in the Constitution that the people shall right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, if there was going to be any kind of regulation due to like large cities or something, or where there's a financial district or whatever you want to figure, it should be left up to the cities and the states themselves, respectively. That's it. It should not be left up. It's not. It's illegal. Now, also, I just want to put this out. How gun control works. That's the one thing they always show. Is like the goody good doesn't have the gun, the bad guy has the gun. That's crime. But the biggest criminals have historically been the government itself. 100 million people in the 20th century have been genocided by governments, and they use gun control to first disarm people. Now, the thing is with a gun, it's already been developed. You got all kinds of milling equipment and lathes. You can make all the guns you want. All you need is 4140 steel, or they call it ordnance steel. That's regular 4140 steel. Rockwell hardened to about 28 to 32. That pretty much makes it a very strong gun part, more than necessary for most cases. You can use different types of stainless steel too, like 416 stainless steel. There's a little bit to the science, and sometimes when you're using moving parts to guns, you have to have them at different Rockwell hardnesses, because if they're at the same Rockwell hardness, it can cause galling, like with the slide in the frame and all that kind of garbage. I'll get into those discussions later, but one of the things that really pushed through the Gun Control Act was assassinations that happened in the 60s. But these assassinations were not caused by the lone gunman. They were actually caused by the government itself. In the case of John F. Kennedy, we all know that Lee Harvey Oswald did not pull the trigger at all. He was not involved in it at all. He was completely set up in every way, every respect of the manner. And you also just wanted to use this photo here because this was like John F. Kennedy was one of the main reasons they put through the Gun Control Act of 1968. But it was also Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and I'm going to tell you something. There's another fact that they put it through. But it's illegal. It's illegal. If you're going to regulate guns in an area, and even that would be illegal, but say they were going to do it, it would be up to the states and the cities themselves. It would not be on a national level through the federal government. That's unconstitutional because it's not even an implied right, because if there's any implied right by the federal government, it would be to make sure people have the weapons because the well-regulated militia is the United States itself. It's all its citizens between a certain two age groups that are able-bodied. And actually, if the U.S. was going to regulate anything, it would be that they would have true military-style weapons, not the semi-automatic AR-15, but the full M4 carbine that's issued to the military with the burst feature or full automatic. That's what would actually, if they're going to regulate anything, they'd have to make sure you had that, not bar you from having it. There'd be no Gun Control Act of 1968. There'd be no National Firearms Act of 1934. They're both illegal. Actually, the 1934 Act came about due to the gangs. They were killing each other mostly. There wasn't like killing innocent civilians hardly at all. It was mainly they were killing each other. And why were they killing each other? They were providing a service because of prohibition. Because the U.S. government had instilled cause prohibition, and people still wanted to drink. And some people provided the booze to them. And they had the best weapons to provide that, right, to protect that trade that they're providing to the people. Just like the drug trade is a load of it, most of the drugs are being brought in by the government itself. But I want to also point out this picture. The reason I got this picture of JFK up here, too, this one specifically. Good close-up shot. This was Dallas, Texas. Not too much before where he got shot, because you'll see people lined up on his side here. Where he got shot, there was hardly any people. He had a clear view, and it was deliberately done like that. But you know what else was deliberately done? See in the back of this car here? Right here? See these handhelds? That's where the Secret Service is supposed to stand. They're supposed to stand on that special step bumper that's in the back, and they're supposed to hold on to the back right there. They took them away from that so they'd have a clear shot at Kennedy. Lee Harvey Oswald didn't do this. The government did, actually. Certain elements in the government, but they're controlling the shots. You see the cops over here in the motorcycle police? See how they're back? They ride on the side. They're supposed to ride on the side. They had them deliberately go to the back so they can have a clear shot at JFK. Multiple shooters. Not a conspiracy theory. It's a freaking fact. They were ordered to do this. This was highly unusual, and they were protesting against it. The Secret Service saying, why the hell are we allowed to do this? Now, this was the reason why they got through the Gun Control Act in 1968. So they're trying to disarm the people piece by piece. It's taken a while because the people are fighting back. But we need to freaking just get rid of the Gun Control Act of 1968 and the National Firearms Act of 1934. Throw them out the freaking window. Yeah, maybe the criminals will have guns, but usually what they do is kill each other. They try to kill the good guys, they wind up wanting to get killed really bad, really fast. You know what I mean? That's what happens. Because everybody's armed, it's like it doesn't work like that. But they're looking to control the people, because today, the technology for guns are, you can have one guy guarding 2,000 people, no problem. If the one guy's got a well-made automatic weapon that doesn't jam, he can have 2,000 people around a little 4-foot fence and guard them, and if anyone tries to escape, you just waste them. You can easily freaking do it. One person can control 2,000 people. If those 2,000 people aren't armed, and that one is armed, hang it up. The gun's been invented. Too bad. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. It's here. And anybody can make them. If you go back to if you go to Afghanistan or you go to Pakistan, they make them on a crude lathes and end mills left and right. No CNC machinery at all. They just make them by hand fit everything. No problem. Here's the Bill of Rights again, ratified December 15th, 1791. Now I'm going to get to the 10th Amendment, because that's the thing that actually can blow it apart even more. Now they're going to try to freaking dismantle the United States more or less through global government and a government that's above the Constitution. That's another thing they're trying to do. But you got to remember, how did you get these freaking amendments in the first place? You had to kill people to get them. That's really what happened. You had to really waste people. They didn't come about by debate. You had to kill them. That's what happened. So a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This was not a debate between us and the King of England and King George. No, we had to go waste his redcoats before he got it, And it goes on here, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, or Here's Obama. I don't believe people should be able to go on guns. Him and all the shitheads that support him for freaking 2 times, they ought to be flushed down the toilet or sent out to sea in a leaky boat. You know what I mean? Serious. Now, the other thing that why they disarm people, this is interesting too. The Civil Rights Movement. Photographic history, 1954 to 1968, mainly came into being, got its stride maybe in 59, 60, really came in its stride basically in the late 50s and through the 60s, up through 68. Civil Rights Movement and Civil Rights Act of 1964. But after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, there was still riots in the streets, 65, 66, 7, 68, and died down around 68 pretty much, right? What happened? They reacted. The government reacted. Hey, New Jersey had to pass the SIL Gun Control Act with the fingerprints and the firearm ID card, the 2 references, go to the police station, get the mental eval, and the freaking criminal background check, pay a fee, and you had to have a lifetime firearms, the ID card, even to buy freaking ammunition, right, in New Jersey. And that was 2 years earlier, prior, as a reaction to the civil rights movement. It was really aimed at the blacks more than anything. You know, it's police freaking anybody that was protesting against the Gun Control Act in New Jersey that was at the hearings. The Attorney General Arthur Sills had the cops freaking investigate every single one of them. Yep, totalitarian to the max. But you know, we look at the Second Amendment all the time, but you know what? We got to look at the 10th. The 10th. The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So in other words, the Constitution doesn't say anything about gun control. The Constitution says the right of the people shall not be infringed, and you have a well-regulated militia. But a well-regulated militia means people should be having weapons that are freaking military style, truly. Not, they're arguing that, oh, this is a military style weapon. The NRA is going, well, it's not. It's just black plastic and it's got semi-automatic. It's the same semi-automatic features as other regular rifles. But you know what? The Constitution specifically states if anything should be what the people have, they should have the exact same thing that the military has, because the militia is all the people. That is why it goes on in the second phrase, that the people's right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, this amendment saying that since the Constitution doesn't enumerate any powers about limiting the weapons people should have, first off, that doesn't belong in the realm of the federal government at all. It actually doesn't even belong in the states either, because that would be violating the Second Amendment of the Constitution. But the Gun Control Act of 1968 and the National Firearms Act of 1934 violates both the Second Amendment and the 10th Amendment, and it violates the 10th Amendment because it's on a national level. It's not one of the powers that is spelled out in the Constitution nor implied. If anything's implied in the Constitution about weapons, it should be that the people have military-style weapons, not even a semi-automatic version. This is exactly what it says. Too bad. And we all know the globalists are just trying to kill everybody. That's what's going on. And it goes on. The 10th Amendment is similar to the earlier provisions of the Articles of Confederation. I like using that word, Confederation, because basically that's kind of like what we had. We never were intended to be a super strong union. There was a reason to have a federal government to protect all the states, but pretty much most of the laws that should have been made need to be made at the state level. Like the hell with the EPA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the FDA, all that bullshit. It's garbage. It's all unconstitutional. And, oh yeah, the Department of Education, which freaking dumbs down kids, really, in reality. But each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence in every power, jurisdiction, and right which is not by this confederation expressly delegated to the states is in Congress assembled belongs to the states themselves. This is really what the 10th Amendment means. It doesn't so. I mean, most of the freaking laws coming out of D.C. Not even, people are bitching about executive orders. Yeah, they're illegal as shit. But even the laws that Congress are passing, they're illegal. They're unconstitutional to the max. Even though the Supreme Court that rules that, I'm not going to knock the gays here now, but if you look legally, just say this legally, right? Historical legal precedent, case law and everything. What is marriage, right? Because I'll give you an exact example when Supreme Court passed the gay rights marriage law, whatever the hell it was. Obama led up the White House like a Fruit Loop, right? Because he's gay, he's married to a tranny, right? But I don't give a shit about that so much. But say they don't need to freaking have any laws about marriage. That's the other thing. I mean, that's not even they're like weighing in on something that the government needs to stick their nose out of. That's my thought on the whole thing. It's like the church, the government. If people want to be gay or they want to be gender blenders, that's up to you, man. Do whatever the hell you want. But, when they looked at this law with the gay marriage or whatever it was, or gay lesbian marriage, it's got no historical case law that they could base it upon to say that, yeah, we give it our seal of approval. It was like they're just putting their heads up Obama's stinky ass. That's all they were doing. That's the reality of the situation. So those pieces of shit in black robes, they ain't worth the crap either. I'm actually hoping that maybe they have a big snowstorm and an ice storm and the roof caves in on their goddamn place up there in Washington, D.C. this winter, and they can go talk about global warming when it happens, too. I think that may happen in the next few years. You're going to see some record freaking snows, unlike, we've been having in the last 5 years. That's another game they're playing. They're using that global warming garbage as a way to tax a carbon tax to fund a global government. But it's all based upon global warming that they say is caused by mankind. Well, whatever, dude, Even if it was global warming caused by mankind, that doesn't mean there should be a global carbon tax. That means maybe there would be a city carbon tax, and it goes to the city and screw the global government and screw the state government, for crying out loud. I mean, you don't want the states getting like crazy with laws either, because that's why we have a constitution that regulates everything. That Bill of Rights is very important. We keep forgetting about that 10th Amendment. We can keep forgetting about all these amendments, to tell you the truth. And they're violating them left and right. Not that easy. That's why. And, the civil rights movement, they would have never had this if they didn't push for the war between the states. Oh, man. The high and mighty freaking abolitionists and their fake talk about, most of the abolitionists are full of shit, to tell you the truth. Oh, man, they created more freaking black and white tensions than anybody. And that's been another thing I'm putting out here that's very politically incorrect. The communists look to exploit tensions between races to freaking push their agenda so somebody else can make all these rules at the federal government level. Hey, you know what? The way I look at it, everybody's got to be respected as a person, as the man or the woman or the gender blender that they are, right? That's the way it goes. And Obama, I ain't sure where you fit in. I don't even think you're a gender blender. You're just a freak from another planet, including your Michelle, the tranny. But this guy, he's a freak. So's Hillary. But nobody's thinking about the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment actually, I know the people in the black robes up there aren't going to look at it this way, but the reason, it's almost like, I almost look at government almost like religion in some ways. How hard is it, like say for instance you're Christian, I'm not saying you got to be Christian, but how hard is it to figure out the 10 Commandments? It's not hard, right? Pretty simple. How hard is it to figure out the words of Jesus, the ones they wrote in red in the Bible, right? I'm assuming you're Christian. If you're not, fine. I mean, but I'm getting at a point. It's not difficult, right? You don't need an expert to interpret all these things. It's designed so anybody can figure it out. It's not like you got to have a PhD to do the right thing. It's designed so anybody knows what the hell it is. That's the same way with the Bill of Rights. These people are saying like the word the doesn't mean the, it means and. That's how they interpret the freaking Constitution. They're the actual wordsmiths that are freaking twisting the meaning around. Not the meaning, but they're freaking flat out. They're changing the whole English language around different to make the Bill of Rights mean something totally different. Next they're going to be saying the First Amendment is actually not freedom of speech. It's freedom to utter government-approved statements and slogans. That's what your freedom of speech really means. Yeah, sure. If that ever happens, I'm going to be using you freaking people as target practice. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm serious, man. I'm freaking fed up with this bullshit. These guys in the government and, the alphabet soup agencies, they're all criminals. I don't know what the hell they're doing anymore. Anybody with half a brain knows that the drug enforcement agencies bringing in the guns, the BATF is bringing, excuse me, the drug enforcement agencies bringing in the drugs. The BATF is helping to arm the shit out of the freaking bad guys that are like drug dealers and shit like that. Even like involved with the CIA, yeah, they've been bringing in drugs to freaking, support their clandestine operations because they couldn't get budgets from Congress. Right? What do you need this shit for? It's bullcrap. So, really. I don't know why. You see, that's why I don't understand. What I'd like to see is, like up on the White House, what the hell is it? They have a petition or something where if they get 50,000, petition in the freaking, what's his face, Obama, he's got to answer it. I'm surprised people aren't putting up a lot of, well, maybe they won't let you put it up there. That's another thing. But I would I would like to see something put up there about get rid of the freaking Gun Control Act in 1968 in light of the fact that Omar Mateen was a almost decades-long employee of a place that had all former NSA, CIA, and FBI, and they guard all our top freaking facilities, including the atomic nuclear facilities in this country. And those idiots couldn't even figure out what was going on with this guy. Which means basically the government has their head up their ass, or the reality of the situation, they're criminals trying to disarm people. But I'd like to see something up there on that White House petition right now stating why the Gun Control Act of 1968 should be repealed. Because really, it was instilled partly, it was actually put into being over the JFK assassination, which obviously definitely wasn't freaking Lee Harvey Oswald. E. Howard Hunt actually admitted to it on his deathbed, and also when he went to jail for the White House Watergate burglaries of Nixon. He said he was going to spill the beans. But like I pointed out before, Secret Service went riding on the back of the car, and the cops were pulled back from the side. Deliberately, they were ordered to do that, so they have a clear shot at Kennedy. It wasn't a Lee Harvey Oswald order, right? And that's why, you got to stop everybody from having the guns because of that. Mm-hmm. And the blacks were fighting for their rights. Oh, disarm the blacks, man. Disarm the blacks. Right? Martin Luther King got killed. I think that was a government setup too, big time. And Bobby Kennedy. Martin Luther King was going to back Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy would have been president. Oh, they got rid of him. Both of them. So, just putting it to you straight, you can't just look at it from the Second Amendment. You also got to look at it from the 10th Amendment, because the 10th Amendment, like I stated before, it flat out says, if it's not, the powers are not delegated in the Constitution of the United States, well, or they're not prohibited to the states, the powers belong only to the states, respectively, or to the people. So if it's not spelled out in the Constitution, or not even it's implied by the Constitution, it's implied by the Constitution that we need to regulate education, the environment, and, whatever else. they got out there with these freaking stupid departments they got out there. Yeah, Homeland Security. Yeah, bullshit, bullshit. Yeah, they came up with Homeland Security in a Patriot Act. What a misnomer. Over, because Building 7 came down in 9 seconds, right? Um, I'm telling you right now, man, this is bullshit all the way. And the people in our government are big time criminals. And it's time, like, that the NRA and even Judicial Watch and organizations like that get even stronger worded against these people. Maybe they're afraid to because they're afraid they're going to get killed by them. Maybe that's what the deal is. I don't know. But it's like, it's not, I'm not putting a conspiracy theory out here. What I'm telling you is like blatant one-on-one facts. I mean, I can get into other things that talk about, how we're giving money to even, rebels in, ISIS, right? Yeah, yeah, right. Nobody's want to. Well, it depends on who you are. We all know what's going on with that deal, and a lot of different things. We pretty much funded even both sides of the Vietnam War indirectly because we helped Russia, who in turn helped China and North Vietnam during that time. So, I mean, this is bullshit. That's all I gotta say. It's freaking bullshit. And it's time to, like, not just push them back or stop them a little bit and push them way the hell back. Freaking take the offensive. These people are freaking trying to, like, create a law of more gun control. I mean, their big freaking gun law out there right now is the Gun Control Act of 1968. The second one is the National Firearms Act of 1934. Repeal them. Get rid of them. Completely. Bullshit. Yeah, you worried about criminals? Yeah, if you're worried about criminals, go buy a goddamn gun. If you're not worried about criminals, you want somebody to freaking protect you, you know what? Go hire a guard. You pay them money. You'll have money left over if the tax bill goes down. It will. It will. You're not going to be paying as much taxes without the freaking FBI, the overbloated military, the freaking Homeland Security, CIA, and the NSA. Well, their billions of dollars going to black hole projects and shit. Be a lot more money left over for people. Right? Go buy your own go get your own damn guard. Go in a homeowners association or some shit and hire a couple of guards to protect the neighborhood. If you jerks don't want to buy a gun, fine. You don't want to buy a gun, don't. Not like you have to. But actually, if there was a law about gun control and a well-regulated militia being necessary to the freedom of a free state, that the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. Well-regulated militia, if you're going to pass any kind of law, it would be to require people to own a military-style weapon and know how to use it and be responsible with it. That would be the only law that would freaking be constitutional at the federal level. Period. How's that? I like to see the NRA say that shit. I don't see any of these gun owners organizations saying that. None of them do. But that's the reality situation. You say, that's too radical? Well, sorry, that's what the freaking law is, damn it. And if you look, anytime there's been a genocide in the world, gun control first. And they're going to do that in the United States, too. That's what they plan on doing. They're going to get rid of undesirables. So, I wouldn't totally depend upon Second Amendment. I would depend on your weapons first. Because you know how this amendment came into being? You had to fight for it first. That's how you freaking got it. You didn't talk in it. You didn't go into court and say, hey, I didn't go to the King's court, King George's court, and say, I want to have a Second Amendment, and we're going to argue this legal case. No, you didn't do that. Right? It's kind of like, what happened when, the Jews went up against Rome, right? The fucking Rome wouldn't listen, right? Excuse me? They weren't going to listen because that's just the law. And the law says you will pay taxes and you will have our gods in your temple. What do they say? Screw you, right? They didn't win. They didn't win, right? Jews didn't win, right? But they still fought, didn't they? That's the thing. That's what counts.